Hello and welcome to HomeTech. HomeTech is a podcast dedicated to discovering new and emerging technologies for the home. We discuss news about the Internet of Things, home automation, and more. I'm Seth Johnson in Florida, and I'm joined by Jason Griffin in Los Angeles.
Welcome to the HomeTech Podcast, Episode 11. I'm Jason Griffin in Los Angeles, and I'm joined, as always, by Seth. How are you, Seth?
Doing well, Jason. How are you doing?
I'm good. Good to be back with you. Been a crazy busy week here, just wrapping up some pretty sizable projects. So been running around like a headless chicken lately, but we're getting caught up.
Must be going around because we're doing the exact same thing. I had 3 major projects decide they all wanted to do their trim out phase at the same exact time. And these are projects that were supposed to have been done either already or just been construction delays, and it's just been an insane at least 3 or 4 weeks for me. So just, I think I may be
Easter
caught up.
Famine, right?
Yeah, exactly. I may be caught up in a couple weeks. So
yeah. I'm actually mostly consumed right now with a couple of projects that were pretty much wrapped up, and the owner recently moved in. And I mentioned that specifically because it dovetails nicely with what we're going to talk about later in the show, which is choosing an integrator. If you're going to go that route as somebody who wants to get into home automation, how do you choose who's going to install your system if you go with the professionally installed route? And I've just been thinking about that a lot because, really when you get down to the closing phase of these projects as integrators, we're just in people's homes so much and we're working so closely with them. I think more so than any other trade, like electricians and plumbers. I mean, they tend to finish up and they're done, whereas we have this break-in period. And so been doing a lot of that, just working very closely with clients these last couple of weeks to get them comfortable with their system and get all the bugs out, and really just brings to mind how important that relationship is between a homeowner and the integrator that they choose.
Yep, we're always last to leave, and you can't really, when the house is under construction as a homeowner, you can't actually activate your cable services or anything. So we're always in the door or standing at the door pretty much when you're moving in. Yeah. I think most of our projects are we're battling the movers to get TVs hung and everything. So it's that situation that we always get in, and we're definitely last to leave, and part of the punch out, I guess, is it's just our job. So somebody's got to do it, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, and we'll touch on that a little bit more here soon. There wasn't a whole lot that went on in the news this week that I really felt like we needed to touch on, but I did want to just talk briefly about the story. It looks like Universal Remote is now going to be offering remotes through the iControl platform, which I thought was interesting.
No, definitely. I know URC does a huge amount of OEM business, so they make remotes for other, like maybe your cable company gives you a remote with your cable box. I want to say a few of those are made by URC, and I know they do a pretty large business in that arena. But yeah, this is interesting because it's still, I mean, they're not easy to program. So I mean, somebody is going to have to set these up and program them, and for this iControl software, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays together. And iControl is a neat little product because I think most of it is programmed kind of online, like on the cloud, and then it gets deployed down into the system. So maybe there's some kind of tie-in there. Just interested to see how all this comes together.
Yeah, I think the same questions generally that you did when I first saw the story. And for people who might not be totally familiar with URC or Universal Remote, they're a big company, and they've been around putting out programmable universal remotes for years. And as professional integrators, a lot of us work with their product lines, and they have various remotes of different degrees of complexity. Some with touch screens, some are more simple. Some, like you mentioned, aren't even necessarily labeled universal remote, and they're kind of a white label product that cable companies will provide for you. So I guess it kind of depends, really, how this plays out really depends on actually what hardware they're going to be providing through iControl. But iControl is a platform, basically a white label product that the consumer facing side of this product that people would likely be familiar with are the home automation offerings by companies like Time Warner, Cox, Comcast, Xfinity. So ISPs, companies like that use iControl to provide their home automation solutions. So this will be a nice tie-in for them if they can get it working right.
Yeah, no, definitely. And just to note, this is the same eye control that recently acquired Piper. If I'm
Correct.
not, yeah. So it looks like they're on the move, and will be, this is starting to look like a pretty compelling product. Although it comes from Comcast, and they aren't my favorite in the world.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, we'll link to it in the show notes. I did write a little blog post with a few thoughts about this at the blog at HomeTech.fm. So people can stop by and check that out. But I do think it's interesting, as all of this home automation technology is developing, and there's all these do-it-yourself products that are tying all these subsystems together. I feel like audiovisual and controlling the living room is really one of the last, I don't want to say uncharted territories, but it's one of those last big hurdles that people need to clear, because as we know, as professionals, controlling audiovisual components from dozens of different manufacturers and, countless numbers of different models, it's very difficult. It requires a lot of time to sit down and really program these remotes so that they work reliably and intuitively. And it's not an easy thing to do. So
no, it requires a lot of expertise, quite frankly. I mean, we've hired people over the years that have come in with a decent amount of programming knowledge, but they maybe have been able to take that product, from 0 to 60, but getting it 60 to 90 or to 100 really takes somebody that's been doing this for a number of years. And just getting that last extra bit polished off is really the hardest thing to do. So it's I don't know, and we'll see how it does work out, because I don't know if this is something that you can train somebody to do in a couple of hours. So
yeah, and the bigger challenge to me, I think, is that even if you can train somebody to do it, it's getting them to take the time, because it's just not a process that can be rushed is the bigger thing. I mean, it's not rocket science. It is difficult. It takes time to understand the ins and outs of discrete codes and non-discrete codes and all of that sort of silly stuff that we have to deal with. But I think the even bigger challenge is like how quickly the cable installers have to get in and out when they come and do an install. We all know that. It's just part of their business model, and we understand that. But this, that doesn't jive well when you're talking about a true universal remote that's programmed to control like a surround sound room, where you may have 5 or 6 different components that you need to tie into that one remote.
Exactly. And it even myself over the years, I mean, I've missed buttons, like you program a universal remote and you may miss the 4 button, and the customer calls you up and says, I tried to dial in channel 34 and it just keeps going to 3. So, I mean, it's like you said, it's something that can't be rushed. And there's a lot of testing and everything that has to go along with it, and just a lot of experience too. I mean, we'll get into this in our later, our main segment here. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's an experience thing, and it's a hard thing, a pretty hard thing to actually get somebody in your house that actually knows this stuff inside and out.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say about it, and then we'll move on, is, we still don't really know what kind of form this will take. In other words, this could actually be something iControl is working on from a more do-it-yourself angle, meaning, maybe this remote will get dropped off and iControl put out some sort of software tool or web-based tool where clients can, in theory, do some of their own programming. I mean, that's a possibility too, but that gets back into the same question of, are they really going to have the patience to deal with that? So
yeah, like Harmony remotes. I mean, kind of the same idea.
Did a similar thing. Exactly. That was my thought. So we'll see.
Cool. It looks like good news that we covered a Mosaic. Was a little, kind of like a little Sonos type device, a little speaker that you can stream music to. They were doing a Kickstarter, and it looks like looks like April 20th, they made their goal. So they're going to keep moving forward.
Yeah, I was excited to see that. I like I'm a fan of what they're trying to do with their product. I think it looks really promising. It's got some cool features to it. The whole idea of wireless distributed audio is, it's not a revolutionary idea. It's been around for a while, but there's very few companies successfully implementing it right now, namely Sonos and Bose to a certain extent, although they're rather different animals. But Mosaic looks like a cool product, and they had a funding goal of $100,000 roughly US. I think it was in euros, if I remember correctly. But either way, they reached their goal, 100% funding. Looked like it kind of came down to the wire, but I'm excited for them. And I'll definitely look forward to seeing how the product develops.
No, definitely. And it looks like this ties into a little product called Wigwag, which is another connected hub that kind of reaches out and talks to a bunch of different devices. I don't know if have you seen anything about that, or?
I have not. I know of Wigwag, but I don't know a whole lot about their product, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I only heard of it because over on Technology.fm, where we are listed as well, Michael Wolf does a really nice show called The Smart Home Show, and his last interview was Ed Hemphill of Wigwag. So that's a pretty good one if you're interested in hearing about what they do with this little connected hub that can reach out and control this device by Mosaic and everything. Head over to Technology.fm. There's a lot of good podcasts there, including us. Yay! We're happy to be listed there.
Yeah, that is a nice thing that we should touch on. I don't know if we've really. I think we did a brief announcement about that in our last episode, but yeah, we are now featured on Technology.fm, which is a great sort of hub for various technology podcasts, and there's a lot of great shows on there, so we're honored to be part of that. And if people are interested in other technology related podcasts, they should definitely go check it out at Technology.fm.
No, definitely, it'll be in the show notes too. But yeah, like I said, we're excited to be part of it, and yeah, very cool.
Definitely. Well, should we jump into our feature section here?
I think we should.
All right, very good. So I'll just do a brief intro. This feature section is going to be slightly different than most of the other episodes that we've done, in that we're going to be focusing a little bit more on people who want to get into home automation and home technology, but may not want to do it all themselves, or may not want to do any of it themselves, and they just want to hire somebody, who can provide that design and service from end to end. So we're going to talk about how to choose a professional integrator if you decide to go that route. We'll touch on some of the reasons why you might want to go that route versus some of the reasons that you may want to just stick with the more do-it-yourself route. And then we'll go over, some of the places where you can look to find an integrator. And then lastly, we'll kind of touch on some of the qualifications and some of the questions that you should ask once you have an integrator in mind, or maybe a couple of different integrators, and you're trying to vet them down to make that final selection.
Yeah, and I think we talked a little bit about this in our very first episode. I think we were just mostly covering kind of our background and our what we know, and we were kind of going over a couple of things on how to pick an integrator. But we got some pretty good feedback on from a few listeners about that, and it just kind of sparked a idea in both of our heads, I think. To see if we could, expand on this a little bit more and offer a little bit more information and insight into kind of how all of this works when you're building a new house, or you just want to retrofit something in, or you're working with a contractor who brings in an integrator. These are all kind of alien and foreign. I mean, things for people to do, because you've had plumbers, you've had electricians. Those trades have been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years.
So that's true.
Yeah, I mean, they know what they're doing. And there's a standard way of putting in pipes where the water actually flows downhill.
Or you hope so, at least.
Right. But with an integrator, I mean, we talk about a new standard every week here. So there's all sorts of things you could do, and you may get a complete varying range of quality, or what's the word I'm looking for? I'm gonna have
workmanship.
Workmanship.
Yeah,
workmanship. Out of the integrator, but also maybe out of the product too, like performance, I guess, out of the product. And that may come. That kind of information only comes with experience. And I'm thinking of I'm not going to name any manufacturers or anything, but I was in a multi-million dollar condo this week, and they installed roller shades. You've probably done a number of those too?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So they've got about 34 of them across the back sliders of the building, which sounds like a lot, but they were actually doubled up. So they had a blackout and a shear.
Mm-hmm.
And so these were all motorized and automated through the Control4 system. And unfortunately, the motorization, how these triggered, when the Control4 system sent out a command, or even when you were using the app on the iPad to send out a command from the manufacturer's own branded iPad app, the shades all just kind of just randomly would go up and down. It was kind of like watching a popcorn effect. Like the ones far away would start up, and then the ones in the middle would start up. And it's tough because I know they probably paid, quite a bit for 34 different roller shades and motors.
Yeah.
It's hearing that and just multiplying out how much I know that costs. That's big money. And for me, I would expect all those shades to be in line, going up at the same time in the same level. And that,
Absolutely.
that kind of experience only comes with being around all these products and knowing exactly how they perform and how they work. And you don't get that unless you work with integrators. So I guess that's kind of a reason why you would want to hire an integrator, because they know the products inside and out. They deal with them every day.
Yeah, definitely. And with certain things like motorized shading and, maybe to a lesser extent, lighting control, things like that, although there are more and more do-it-yourself offerings coming available all the time, those are some of the things that, especially motorized shading, it's a very specialized installation process to get those rollers in there, and that really takes a degree of experience. So something like motorized shading is, if you're looking at doing that in your home, that right off the bat is going to be an indication that you're probably going to want to pursue a professional for that portion of the job. Now, there are other times when you're looking to do some home automation, and maybe all you feel like you really need in your house is some distributed audio, maybe some basic monitoring, a few cameras, things like that. If that's all you want out of your home, then you're probably going to be fine going down the do-it-yourself route, as long as you're willing to invest a little bit of time learning the products, kind of troubleshooting things yourself. They don't work, which can especially happen when you're first setting them up. Typically, there's kind of a break-in period to get all the kinks out and everything like that. So I think it really, at the outset, if you're kind of on that fence, it really just comes down to what's the scope of your job and how much time are you willing to invest yourself in implementing that. Right.
And yeah, and I think that reasons why you probably wouldn't want to hire an integrator, maybe you think it adds more expense onto the project. I think most people would see, oh, well, I kind of know how to do a home network, so I can set that up. But I've seen that go both ways. I've seen really, really good homeowners, experienced homeowners with networking and everything, nail a home network and be able to deploy something that is on par, if not better, than what we do. And then I've seen it in the end cost other homeowners lots of money, where they thought they knew better going in on how to deploy a system, and when push comes to shove, it costs more to fix this stuff after the fact than it does to fix it early on. So that would be kind of my biggest point in all of this. And I think in episode 1, I think I said it: start early.
Yep.
You don't want to build a house, get to 2 days before the electrical is supposed to be finishing up, and say, oh yeah, I wanted TVs in here.
Yeah.
Because exactly. You are going to get the worst system possible.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, we've referenced episode 1 a couple of times. That was designing a smart home. So we talked a bit about our background and some of the considerations that you want to make from a high level when you're entering the market and you're thinking about, the systems that you might want to implement. So I think similar to that show, we can assume here probably that most people are fairly sure one way or the other going into the project, whether they're going to kind of do it themselves or if they're going to look to hire a professional. So I think I mean, I think it is important to consider it, and I think there are going to be some people out there who are kind of on the fence and not sure. But for the rest of the conversation, I think we can kind of assume that, okay, let's assume that you've decided, I want to hire somebody, I want to hire a professional to help me out implementing this home automation system. Now what? Like, where do I go to look?
Yeah, and I think first you will probably find the first person you'll probably ask is your contractor, right? Like whoever's building your home will probably have a working relationship or definitely had at this point a project that has had some home automation or TVs in it, at least I hope. I'm not unless you're building log cabins. I don't know. I think every home has had a TV in it in the last 20 or 30 years at least. So hopefully your contractor can kind of lead you or point to one or two integrators that would be able to help you out on your project.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know on a lot of the jobs that we do out here in Los Angeles, in kind of the luxury market here, the ones we do in that higher end market, oftentimes it's even the designer or the architect that the homeowner is working with that brings us into the fray.
Yep.
So there's trade sort of industry relationships that we as integrators really foster with contractors and designers and architects. And, it's kind of a double-edged sword. And we were talking about this before the show. Like, on one hand, I think looking for an integrator that has long-standing relationships with industry partners like contractors and architects, I think that speaks well of them, because most of those contractors and architects don't tend to keep integrators around who don't know what they're doing. But like you mentioned, I mean, there's also potential pitfalls to that too. Like, you can't take everything the contractor says as gospel either, because sometimes maybe they work with the same integrator for years and years, and that doesn't necessarily mean the integrator does great work, but there could be other relationships there, or it could just be a comfort thing where they, just go with the same one because that's what they've always gone with. So it's not a the be all end all, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right. And I have no reservations on going down the inside baseball track here and saying that most of the contractors, and maybe it's just a Florida thing, but most of the ones that I've dealt with in my career, and I've been around the state of Florida on jobs, most of the contractors that are brought in, whether it's your cabinet, your plumber, your electrician, the way it works here, and it may just be a regional thing, is that the general contractor will ask their contractors to bid on a job, and they'll take those prices and either mark them up a percentage and then hand that over to the homeowner, and that's how they make their money. And that really becomes painful when it comes to electronics that could be hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. To have that marked up and have an issue with it later on. That's one way they do business, and that could be how the contractor has a working relationship with an integrator, is that there's money changing hands behind the scenes. That may not be legal for. I don't think architects do that, or designers. They kind of stay out of that, at least in my experience. But the vast majority of them here. I mean, we've had a builder. This was a couple of years back before the recession, that we paid they paid us a flat $425 for a security system, and we were finding out from the customers who were just livid about how much the security system cost. They were paying over $2,000 for it.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, there's definitely some underhanded things that go along there.
Yeah.
Luckily, we don't work for that builder anymore. So
yeah, no surprise there. Yeah. So I don't know a lot about the general contracting business, but I do know that I think it's pretty standard practice for them to take their subs, like their plumbers and their electricians, and then just mark that up. But I think what's important to realize is what they're doing there is they're marking it up for their management and oversight of the job. Now,
definitely.
The catch there, though, is that a lot of these contractors, you have to be a little bit careful, because home automation, audiovisual, low voltage, as we called it, is still like a relatively new trade. And so I would say that there are a lot of contractors out there who don't treat it with the respect that it deserves. So they don't actually properly manage the job when it comes to looking out for things like proper ventilation for the equipment, proper wire chases so that we can run the wires the correct way that they need to be run. That sort of thing is important. And a lot of contractors don't really think about it when it comes to low voltage. So if you're paying a contractor to that extra markup to manage your low voltage guys, make sure he's actually doing it and that he's actually helping them and giving them what they need to properly implement the system.
100% correct. I mean, I have no problem with them marking up, any invoice that I send them. But it's the, you want to make sure that the job's done right. And if something happens, if something happens on this job, you're right, that money goes to the management. And, say some drywall gets damaged when, we're installing a speaker, they're going to have to pay to fix that. So, the money does go to good. It does go, exactly. But, just keep an eye on the pricing and that kind of thing. But my most important takeaway is still start early. Like you were saying, that the contractor may not even think about AV until the house is ready to be buttoned up, and at the point that it's just too late to even understand or budget or do any proper design work or wiring in the house. Just because, again, it's not a trade that's been around for hundreds or thousands of years. Mm-hmm. This is very new, and for people to come in and say, "Oh, I'd like a video distribution system in this house," is completely outside the scope of what most builders have had to deal with for the last 50 years. So
right,
you start early. This is a TV system. You're going to use your TV every single day. You're not going to swim in your swimming pool every single day, but you'll be watching your TV 90% of the time that you're at the house. So you want to make sure that's done right.
Yeah, and people will hear us beat that to death over the course of our shows where we talk about the professionally implemented systems, and that's for a reason. Starting early is something that gets overlooked a lot, and it's hugely important. So
Can you hear my scars? Can you hear my battle scars? Yeah. There's wisdom behind these words.
Yes. Yeah. I know what you mean. So, starting with your contractor, designer, architect, who's ever kind of spearheading the project, definitely that's a place that a lot of people will start. And we've talked about some of the pitfalls, but I would say overall in most markets, that's a good place to start. So just beware of some of the potential pitfalls there. If you want to kind of go around that, or maybe you don't even have a general contractor and you're managing the job yourself and you're just going straight, to each sub and hiring them directly, there's, a couple of different ways you can go. Obviously, if you've had friends or business colleagues who have had a home theater or audiovisual system put in, asking for referrals is great. As a professional integrator, that's our lifeblood. So we know that only happy clients are out there referring us to their friends. So that's usually a very, very good indicator that, you're going to get a reputable integrator in there. There's other websites. I'm sure most people have probably heard of Angie's List. It's kind of like sort of like a Craigslist, but it's or a Yelp, but more specialized for like contractors. And so you could go on there and do a search for, audiovisual or home theater and be able to read reviews of people in your area. There's a newer one. I'm not sure if you've used it before. I've actually used it for a couple of different services myself. It's called Thumbtack. Have you used it?
No, I haven't even heard of that before. Is it like Angie's List?
It's similar in a way, and I don't know that it's available in all markets, but it's Thumbtack.com, and it's kind of cool because what you do is you go through, and I've actually done this for audiovisual home theater installation just because I was curious to see kind of how the process worked for that. And you go through and you just type in what you're searching for, and you type in your zip code, and then it'll bring you through to like a questionnaire where they've tailor-made these questionnaires based on what you're looking for. So if you're looking for audiovisual installation, the questions will actually be related to that, and it'll ask you to kind of check certain boxes specifically, like Are you looking to have your flat panel mounted? Are you looking for a custom home theater? I forget what all the options are, but they've actually clearly worked with people in these trades to develop these questionnaires. And then you enter some basic information about yourself, and you click submit. And then on the other end of that, there's subcontractors who are registered with Thumbtack, and they get a chance to look at your questionnaire that you filled out, and then they can send you like a personalized introduction and maybe a rough quote of what they think it would take to do that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like a little, almost like a convenient search, I suppose. I guess on the other side, it's a lead generation type thing, but yeah, I'm kind of going through the form right now, and it looks pretty good. It's pretty neat. They've got these questions down pretty good. So
yeah, and I've used it to hire a personal trainer that I'm working with. That's how I found them, and it worked out great. I mean, it is a lead generation tool for the integrators on the other end, and I believe, and I could be wrong here, but I think they pay maybe per lead, like a small amount per lead or something like that. So, it is a paid service, but at the same time, it's a great place to start, and it gets you an idea and gets you a feel for some of the different players in your market.
No, it looks like a well done website here. So
yeah, it's very cool. They've got a nice mobile friendly website as well. So works great on the iPhone. So I think if somebody's looking to hire somebody and they're kind of starting from zero, I think Angie's List and Thumbtack are two great places to start.
No, definitely. And the old tried and true Google search could probably get you in the right direction too, if those don't lead to anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And then one other one that we wanted to touch on is CEDIA listings. Now, for anyone who's maybe not familiar with CEDIA, it stands for the Consumer Electronics Design and Installation Association. And that is the big trade organization for integrators. There's a couple of other ones, but CEDIA is arguably the most, it's not exclusively residential, but it's the most tailored to residential, I would say, versus like Infocom, which seems to me to be a little bit more geared for commercial boardroom type setups.
Right, and not all integrators are CEDIA dealerships. My company is not.
That's worth noting too. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean we've entertained the idea, but it does bring a lot. There's continuing education and things, different classes that they require for you to keep that membership. So I mean, it's a good resource to find a integrator who is keeping up on their trade.
Yeah, and they've got, we'll include a link in the show notes. They've got find a CEDIA Pro near you on their website, and you just enter your zip code, and I think you answer a couple of basic questions, and then it'll, spit out a list of some integrators in your area. So that's another good place to start, is just on the CEDIA website. And again, not all dealers are even part of CEDIA, so it's not the be all end all, but again, if you're starting from zero and you're just looking for somewhere to get going, CEDIA would be another option.
And they actually have a nice little article on the very topic that we're discussing, is how to plan the project and find a professional integrator, what to ask and that kind of thing. We'll link to that, and then they have some nice consumer facing literature that gives you good questions to ask the integrator when you're interviewing them. So
yeah, which I think is key, and that can kind of get us into our next section, because we've talked about, okay, I decided I want to hire an integrator. We've given some options of where to look, where you could potentially find some integrators, and then at that point you're either going to find one that you're super excited to work with and you're just going to charge forward, or maybe you're down to 2 or 3 different options and you want to whittle it down to one. And so how do you do that? And that's kind of what we can talk about next, in terms of the various qualifications and the questions to ask once you've kind of narrowed down the field.
Yeah, I think licensing, you want to make sure that they're licensed and insured. You don't want somebody to come in the house and start messing around with something they're unqualified to touch. Maybe they start messing around with the electrical to put in a lighting control system, and they're not certified in your state to do that. that could be a huge issue for you if it causes a fire. So, I mean, your insurance isn't going to pay if you brought somebody in that's unqualified. So,
Yeah, absolutely, and obviously that goes with every trade. But the licensing requirements for low voltage are going to be different in every state. So,
and some don't even have licensing.
Yeah, exactly. Some don't even have it required for low voltage. So, it's important to spend a little bit of time getting familiar with that, making sure that the person you're talking to is licensed, insured, all of that. And just to circle back for a quick second, if you do go through your general contractor and have them sub an integrator, they're probably going to take care of all of that for you. So again, that kind of is part of what you're paying for with the general contractor. But if you do decide to go direct with the integrator, these are things that you're definitely going to want to be aware of.
Yep, I think another one would be, the years they've been in business. You don't want to hire somebody who hasn't been doing this very long. I mean, it's just there's no requirements. There's no real requirements to start an AV business. I mean, as we're discussing, so anyone could really say they're an AV contractor and start a business tomorrow. But you want to get somebody that has experience and a number of installs that are similar to your install and in your scope of work under their belt, and you want to get references from those clients and everything, to make sure that what they're saying is true. I mean, this is just like any other trade that you're going to hire to. If you get a guy that says he can lay tile down inside your house and he's a plumber, that's going to be a problem. So you want to make sure that they're able to do what they say they're able to do, and the only way to do that is just do some homework and find out how long they've been in business and check their references. So
yeah, like you said, there's very low barriers to entry in the audiovisual home automation industry. So there are a lot of guys out there who come over from doing just basic phone data pre-wiring. A number of electricians who are now doing it. And, there's probably some of them out there that are perfectly capable. There's a lot of them out there that I've seen that just sort of get into the business and pitch themselves as experts on it. And we know that's not the case. So depending on the scope of your project and how much complexity is involved, you could really get yourself into trouble there. So it's worth noting, that there's a great deal of value in working with somebody who's been in the trade for a while. And that may not necessarily have to mean that they've owned their own business for a while, because a lot of guys will work in the trade for 10 or 15 years and really learn the ins and outs of it and then go start their own shop somewhere else. And, a guy like that, it may look on paper like he's only been in business for a year, but a simple sit down and quick conversation with him, asking him how long he's been in the trade, will quickly reveal that, he's been doing this for a long time. He probably knows what he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have a note here, don't look at their websites. I can kind of speak to that too. Our website looks pretty bad, but we're a good company, I think.
Yeah.
And then I've seen
we should explain that a little bit though before we go any further. So I don't know what it is. I've spent some time just for various reasons and other projects I'm working on, kind of scouring the internet and looking at websites of home automation companies all across the country. And I've noticed that not all of them, but a large amount of them look incredibly dated. And I've worked personally for some companies that were excellent, reputable companies that did great work and just had websites that looked horrible. And those have actually all been updated since. But it's just interesting to me. I kind of had that in our show notes here because, you'd think for high-tech companies working in this sort of business that a web presence and a nice, beautiful website would be a no-brainer. But I guess don't judge a book by its cover. So if you hear good things about an integrator and you look at their website and it looks like it was done in 95, that could just be because they were, they're busy. Super busy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so. I think it comes down, and this is just kind of anecdotal, I guess. I think it comes down to our nature as integrators. We really like to really come from the do-it-yourself vein. Like we really want to do. We got into this business because this is stuff that we like to do, and it's stuff that it's kind of a DIY mentality, and I think a lot of that carries over into some of the other stuff in our company that we probably should sub out to a professional designer. But yeah, I mean, at our website, I updated ours from what was a even more horrible website. It was just basically images that were loading, like static images.
Yeah.
You couldn't even search it with Google. And I haven't touched it since that. So it's been like only 4 years since I've done that. And designs have changed slightly in 4 years.
Yeah, I'd say. So I think the takeaway there is don't judge a book by its cover. There's a lot of great companies out there that for one reason or another just haven't had time to update their websites. So I thought it was funny and worth mentioning.
No doubt. Well, speaking of websites, Jason, where can people find our show notes for the HomeTech podcast here?
So the show notes are up at HomeTech.fm. People can also follow us on Twitter at HomeTech Podcast. And we'd love to have them come by, check out the website, leave some feedback, let us know how we're doing.
Okay. And Jason, where can people find you specifically on the internet?
Yeah, Twitter is going to be the best bet, and that's at Jason Griffing.
And I'm going to be on Twitter as well, at Seth P. Johnson. Thank you very much for listening. We really had a good time on this episode. So hope to see you again, and check out technology.fm as well.
All right. Thanks, Seth.
Thanks, Jason. Have a good one.
All right, you too.